Picture this: a single, solitary streetlight casting its amber glow on a row of identical houses, each one a carbon copy of the next, with curtains drawn tight like secrets. That's where I live, in the heart of a suburban maze that feels more like a museum of what life should be than what it is. I'm Lydia, 28 years old, and I've spent the last few years curating the perfect exhibit of domestic bliss alongside my husband, Fraser. He's 27, an engineer with a mind sharper than the tools he sketches on his endless blueprints. His world is one of precision and deadlines, a place where I'm more of a footnote than a chapter. Our home is a postcard of perfection, a cozy two-story with a manicured lawn that I tend to with the kind of care I wish someone would show me. The grass is always trimmed, the flower beds bursting with color, as if their vibrancy could make up for the quiet inside. We share dinners when his schedule allows, which isn't often. Those meals are a ritual of clinking forks and small talk, the kind that skims the surface because diving deeper might reveal too much. On the rare weekends we escape, it's to some quaint bed-and breakfast or a cabin by a lake, but even those trips feel like faded photographs, moments I'm trying to remember rather than live. Fraser's a good man, kind in the way you'd expect from someone who's always been taught to do the right thing. But he's distant, buried under stacks of work and late-night conference calls that echo through the house like a language I can't understand. I'm left to fill the silence with my own thoughts, and let me tell you, they're not always kind. There's an emptiness in me, a hollow space that grows a little wider each day. It's not something I can name, not yet, but I feel it in the way my chest tightens when I'm alone, which is most of the time. Evenings stretch out endlessly, and I find myself parked in front of the TV, the flickering screen painting shadows across the living room walls. It's a dance of light and dark, a distraction from the stillness, as I wait for the sound of Fraser's key in the lock. Some nights, he doesn't come home until the world outside is asleep, and I'm left with the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock as my only company. I stare at the muted infomercials, the faces of strangers trying to sell me happiness in the form of kitchen gadgets or miracle creams, and I wonder if there's something out there that could fill this void. I've started reaching out to old acquaintances, people from a past I barely recognize as mine anymore. There's Lucien, a smooth-talking artist with a smile that could disarm anyone. He has this way of looking at you, really looking, like he sees every layer you've tried to hide. Then there's Clive, a writer who keeps his cards close to his chest. He wakes up every morning to an empty bed, the sheets on Fraser's side cold and undisturbed, a silent testament to the fact that he's been gone since before the sun even thought about rising. I lie there for a while, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house settling into another day of nothingness. The refrigerator downstairs drones on like a monotonous lullaby, the only sound breaking the stillness as I drag myself out of bed. My days are a loop, a groundhog day of solitude, hours spent wandering from room to room, dusting surfaces that don't need it, rearranging throw pillows just to feel like I've accomplished something. I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that goes cold before I've taken more than a sip, scrolling through my phone, diving into old photos of Fraser and me from when laughter came easy. There's one from a beach trip a few years back, both of us sunburned and grinning, his arms slung around my shoulder, like I was his whole world. I zoom in on his face, searching for a hint of that warmth, but the memory feels like it belongs to someone else. I think about the times I've tried to bridge the gap between us, to pull him back into my orbit. Last month, for our anniversary, I spent all day planning a surprise dinner. I cooked his favorite, roasted chicken with rosemary and garlic mashed potatoes, set the table with candles, even put on that dress he used to love, the blue one that made his eyes light up. I waited, the food getting cold, the candles burning low, until my phone buzzed with his text. "Working late, don't wait up." I sat there alone, fork in hand, a bottle of wine my only company, each sip tasting more bitter than the last. I told myself it wasn't personal, that he's just dedicated, building a future for us. But every missed moment, every empty chair at the table, chips away at that excuse. I can feel my resolve crumbling, like a sandcastle under a rising tide, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep rebuilding it. Desperate for some kind of connection, I opened up an old group chat with Lucien, Clive, and Gideon a few weeks ago. At first, it was just a way to pass the time, to dip into the past when life felt lighter. We swapped memes, silly ones that made me chuckle for the first time in days, and shared stories about the dumb things we did back in college, Like the time Gideon tried to impress a girl by jumping into a fountain, only to slip and end up soaked to the bone. Those early messages were a lifeline, a reminder that I used to be someone who laughed, who lived. But as the days went on, the tone shifted. I started venting, letting the words spill out about how invisible I feel, how Fraser's absence has turned me into a ghost in my own home. I typed out long messages about the loneliness. The way it clings to me like a second skin. I remember the moment I pushed open the door to that motel room, the hinges creaking like they were reluctant to let me in on whatever secrets lay beyond. The air hit me first, thick with the artificial sweetness of cheap air freshener trying, and failing, to mask the lingering bite of stale cigarette smoke. It was a small, dingy space, the kind of place you drive past 100 times without a second glance. The wallpaper was peeling at the edges, curling away from the walls like it was trying to escape, revealing faded stains underneath. The bed sagged in the middle, its threadbare comforter a patchwork of muted browns and grays, as if it had given up on being inviting long ago. A single lamp sat on a chipped nightstand, its bulb flickering erratically, casting long, jittery shadows across the room that made the whole place feel like it was holding its breath. I stood there for a second, taking it all in, wondering if I'd made a mistake coming here with Lucien, Clive, and Gideon. We arranged ourselves in a loose circle on mismatched chairs, the kind that looked like they'd been scavenged from a garage sale. The seats creaked under our weight, and I clutched a cold can of cheap beer, the condensation slick against my palm. At first, it was just small talk, the kind of meaningless chatter you fall into when you're not sure what else to say. Lucien cracked a joke about some terrible movie we'd all seen years ago, and Gideon chimed in with a story about a disastrous first date that had us all chuckling. Clive, quieter as always, offered a wry comment here and there, his eyes scanning the room like he was taking mental notes for some future story. I sipped my beer, the bitter taste grounding me, and tried to relax, but there was an undercurrent of tension, a nervous energy that hummed between us. Maybe it was the setting, or maybe it was the unspoken understanding that we weren't just here to catch up. As the night deepened, the conversation shifted, like a tide pulling us into darker, more intimate waters. The beer cans piled up on the rickety table between us, and the words started to flow more freely, confessions spilling out into the smoky air. I found myself talking about things I hadn't even admitted to myself, how lonely I've been, how Fraser's constant absence has carved out this aching void inside me. Lucien nodded, his usual charm giving way to something softer, more vulnerable, as he admitted he's been chasing connections that never seemed to stick. Clive's voice was low, almost a whisper, as he spoke about the nights he spends staring at blank pages, unable to write because the silence in his own life is too loud. Gideon, always the joker, let his mask slip just enough to reveal the longing behind his laughter, the way he's tired of always being the one to lighten the mood when he's crumbling inside. It was raw, unfiltered, and it drew us closer, like moths to that flickering lamp. Then the air changed, charged with something I couldn't quite name at first. Lucien's comments took on a suggestive edge, his voice smooth and teasing as he leaned closer, his eyes locking with mine in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. Clive's gaze was intense, piercing, like he could see straight through the walls I'd built around myself, and it made my breath catch. Gideon's playful touches, brushing his hand against my arm, nudging my shoulder with a grin, felt less innocent, more deliberate, stoking a warmth I hadn't felt in so long. I should have pulled back, should have reminded myself of Fraser, of the life I'm supposed to be living. But in that moment, with their voices wrapping around me like a cocoon, I didn't want to. We all felt it, this unspoken agreement, and with full consent, we crossed boundaries I never thought I'd even approach. I lost myself in it, in the thrill of the forbidden, in the way their attention made me feel alive for the first time in months. It was an emotional rush, a tidal wave of sensation that drowned out the guilt gnawing at the edges of my mind. Their laughter, rough and genuine, filled the morning after. I wake up feeling like I've been dragged through a storm, my body heavy with a mix of exhaustion and something darker, something that sits like a stone in my chest. Guilt. It's there before I even open my eyes, pressing down on me as I lie in our bed, the sheets tangled around my legs like they're trying to trap me in last night's mistakes. The space beside me is empty, as it often is, but this time it feels like a judgment, a silent accusation carved into the cold, undisturbed pillow where Fraser should be. I hear the faint clatter of him getting ready downstairs, the sound of his hurried routine pulling me back to a reality I'm not ready to face. I force myself to sit up, my head throbbing with the remnants of cheap beer and restless sleep, and I try to piece together a mask of normalcy before he sees me. Fraser rushes past the bedroom door, already halfway out of the house, his tie slightly askew as he juggles his briefcase and a travel mug of coffee. He pauses just long enough to lean in, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead, his lips warm but fleeting like a ghost of the affection we used to share. "Gotta run, Lid. Big meeting today. See you tonight," he says, his voice clipped with the urgency of his schedule. I manage a weak smile, a mumbled good luck, but as soon as the front door slams shut, the silence crashes over me like a wave, leaving me drowning in my own thoughts. I sit there on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling as I reach for my phone, my lifeline to the outside world, but also a potential landmine. I swipe through my notifications with a racing heart, terrified I'll see a message from Lucian, Clive, or Gideon, some careless text that could unravel everything. There's nothing, not yet, but the relief is fleeting. I can't shake the feeling that I've left a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight back to that dingy motel room. I stumble to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to wash away the evidence of last night, but the mirror reflects a woman I barely recognize. Pale, hollow-eyed, with a tension in her jaw that betrays every secret I'm trying to bury. My clothes from last night are still in a heap on the floor, and I grab them with a frantic urgency, sniffing at the fabric for any trace of cigarette smoke or Lucian's cologne, anything that could give me away. I toss them into the washing machine, pouring in extra detergent as if I can scrub away the memory along with the scent, but my mind keeps replaying every moment, every touch, every word that shouldn't have been spoken. I'm paranoid, jumping at every creak of the house, every distant sound of a car passing by, convinced that somehow someone knows. Later, I sit at the kitchen table, laptop open, trying to distract myself with mundane tasks like online grocery shopping. I'm scrolling through our shared bank account to check the balance when I see it, a charge from that motel, time-stamped from last night, glaring at me like a neon sign. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch that makes the room spin. I forgot to pay in cash. How could I be so stupid? Fraser has access to this account. He could log in at any moment, see this transaction, and start asking questions I don't have answers for. My fingers hover over the keyboard, my breath shallow as I click on the charge details, hoping it's a mistake, a glitch, anything but what it is. But there it is in black and white, undeniable proof of where I was. I grab my phone, dialing the motel's number with shaking hands, my voice tight as I beg them to reverse the charge, to let me pay another way. The clerk on the other end is apathetic, her tone flat as she tells me it's already processed. There's nothing they can do. I hang up, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears, and I stare at the screen, willing the charge to disappear, knowing it won't. The day drags on, each hour a slow torture as I'm sitting on the couch, the TV murmuring in the background, but I'm not really watching it. My mind is a whirlwind, replaying the same panicked thoughts over and over. How I messed up, how that motel charge is just sitting there in our bank account like a ticking time bomb. I've spent all day jumping at every noise, expecting the worst, and now, as the evening shadows stretch across the living room, I hear the front door open. My heart lurches into my throat. Fraser's home earlier than usual, and there's something different in the way his footsteps echo through the hall. Heavy, deliberate, like he's carrying a weight I can't yet see. He steps into the living room and I freeze. His face is a storm, dark clouds of hurt and anger swirling in his eyes, his jaw set so tight I can see the muscle twitching. In his hand, he's clutching a folder, the edges crumpled from how hard he's gripping it. My stomach twists as I realize what it must be. He doesn't say a word at first, just stands there, staring at me, with a look that cuts deeper than any knife. Then he opens the folder, pulling out a stack of printed bank statements, and I see it. The motel charge, circled in angry red ink, a scarlet letter branding my guilt for the world to see. My breath catches, and I feel the room shrink around me, the walls closing in as if they're trying to trap me in this moment. "Where were you that night, Lydia?" His voice is low, trembling with a mix of rage and pain, each word a punch to my gut. He holds up his phone, the screen glowing with a screenshot of our door cam footage, me, sneaking out late, the timestamp matching the night I thought I'd covered up. I thought I'd deleted that clip, scrubbed it clean from our system, but he'd already seen it. He must have checked it days ago, pieced it together while I was scrambling to hide my tracks. My hands start shaking, my palms clammy as I grip the edge of the couch, trying to anchor myself. My throat feels like it's closing up, a tight knot that chokes any excuse I might have conjured. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out, just a pathetic, shaky breath. "Don't lie to me," he snaps, his voice rising just enough to make me flinch. "I deserve the truth. Who were you with? Why would you stoop this low?" Each accusation lands like a stone, piling up until I feel buried under the weight of my own shame. I can see the betrayal etched into every line of his face, the way his eyes search mine for some explanation that might make this hurt less. But there's nothing I can say to soften this blow, nothing that will erase what I've done. My mind races, grasping for a way out, but every path leads back to the same ugly truth. I can't keep running from it, not anymore. I take a deep, shuddering breath, forcing myself to meet his gaze even though it feels like I'm staring into a fire. I was at the motel, I admit, my voice barely above a whisper, cracking under the strain. I was with Lucian, Clive, and Gideon. I didn't plan for it to happen, Fraser, I swear, but I've been so lonely. You're always gone, always working, and I felt like I was disappearing. I just needed to feel something, anything, and that night, I lost myself in it. The words pour out, raw and jagged, tearing at me as much as they must be tearing at him. I'm not holding anything back now, laying every piece of my brokenness bare, hoping somehow he'll understand even if I know he can't. His face crumples, a flash of devastation crossing his features before his fists clench at his sides, knuckles whitening as he fights to keep control. I can see the tears glistening in his eyes, but he blinks them away, refusing to let them fall. "I worked late for us, Lydia, not to push you away," he says, his voice breaking on the last word. Each syllable heavy. The days after that confrontation stretch out like an endless winter, cold and unyielding. The air between Fraser and me, so thick with unspoken pain that I can barely breathe. We move through our house like ghosts, haunting the same spaces but never truly touching, never truly seeing each other. I catch glimpses of him in the hallway or at the edge of the kitchen, his shoulders hunched as if he's carrying the weight of my betrayal on his back. We don't talk, not really. Just curt exchanges about bills or groceries, words stripped of any warmth, sharp enough to cut if I linger on them too long. The silence is worse, though, a heavy blanket that smothers any hope of connection. I find myself tiptoeing around him, afraid to make a sound, afraid to shatter whatever fragile balance we're clinging to. Our home, once a sanctuary, feels like a battlefield now, every corner littered with invisible landmines of hurt and resentment. One morning, I'm pouring coffee, the bitter aroma filling the kitchen, when I notice something glinting on the counter, half hidden behind a stack of unopened mail. My heart stops as I realize what it is. Fraser's wedding ring sitting there like a discarded relic, its gold band dull under the harsh fluorescent light. I stare at it, my hands trembling so badly that I nearly spill the coffee. He's taken it off. I don't know when, don't know why he left it there for me to find, but the message is clear. It's a wound, raw and open, a silent declaration that the vows we made might not hold anymore. I want to pick it up, to slip it back onto his finger as if that could rewind time, but I can't bring myself to touch it. Instead, I leave it there, a painful reminder of what I've broken, and I walk away, my chest tight with a grief I can't name. Later that day, I'm in the living room, pretending to read a book I haven't turned a page of in hours, when I hear Fraser's voice from the other room. He's on the phone, speaking low, but the walls in this house are thin, and every word seeps through like poison. "I don't know if I can forgive her, man," he says, his voice cracking, raw with emotion. I keep trying to understand, to see her side, but every time I close my eyes, I see what she did. I clutch the book tighter, my nails digging into the cover as I listen to him unravel to someone else, someone who isn't me. The pain in his voice is a mirror to my own, but I can't reach out, can't bridge this chasm between us. I sit there, frozen, as he continues, each word a dagger twisting deeper. "I thought we were solid, you know. I thought I knew her. Now I don't even know who I'm living with." The call ends, and I hear the creak of his chair as he sits in silence, just as lost as I am. Inside, I'm a mess, a storm of guilt and regret that I can't escape. I keep replaying that night at the motel, the fleeting rush of feeling wanted, seen, and I hate myself for it. I thought that attention would fill the void, patch up the cracks in my soul, but it's only made them wider, deeper, a gaping wound that festers with every passing day. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I could have been so blind, so selfish. The loneliness I felt before was nothing compared to this. This isolation of my own making, this knowledge that I've hurt the one person I promised to protect. I've shattered something precious, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to gather the pieces, let alone fit them back together. Desperate for some kind of clarity, I decide to seek help. I spend hours online, scrolling through profiles of therapists, looking for someone who might be able to untangle the mess I've made of myself. I finally book an appointment, my voice shaky as I confirm the time over the phone, feeling like I'm taking a step into a new chapter of healing and self-discovery, hopeful that this small step will lead to greater understanding and peace within myself. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.